Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cardano Community podcast. Today we have a special guest who's Darren Camas. Darren Camas is a blockchain advisor. He has been in the space pretty long, actually, since 2011, and I've seen a lot of changes. Let's see. So he has been advising Emurgo, has been in recent years, has been advising IOHK in recent years, have done a lot of stuff and have seen basically the company and also the project grown. So in our previous interview, we spoke about, let's say, we ended where Cardano was listed, had its very first listing on Bittrex. So we'll just continue from that point. But before we get to that, hey, Vasil, who's also co-host today, thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Here is nice weather in Plovdiv, so I enjoy.
Okay, good. Same here as well in the Netherlands. We have a sunny day, and actually we all feel like, I think, more energetic than previous weeks. But anyhow, so Vasil will be co-hosting today, the episode. Darren.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Enlightening
Thanks
us
for
a
having
little
me
bit.
back.
You're welcome.
Thanks for not keeping me out after the first time. So I guess that's a good thing.
Actually, Vasil was actually saying something very interesting. He said he saw the first episode like 5 times.
Maybe 7. I'm not pretty sure. Between 5 and 7, somewhere.
So if we think in 2017 terms, you had early access, or you were in the pre-sale.
Yes, definitely. So how was that? How did the listing on Bittrex go? And let's say from there onwards.
Yeah, so let's backtrack a little bit. At that time, all the exchanges were going crazy. You had this big craze. A lot of exchanges were asking for ridiculous sums, and actually Bittrex was really the one that engaged. They said, "We like your technology. We want to know more about it. We know of Charles. We know of his reputation. They know the computer science background, and basically they were interested in it because of the project." And so, basically, I woke up that morning and I was in Korea then. And actually traveling over to Japan because we were getting ready for the Cardano launch of a Japanese community that had been waiting, for this to be released to public. And it was quite amazing. I think I gave a little bit of a background. I was watching the troll box and crypto Twitter, and everyone was coming out and saying, what is this Cardano? What is this ADA? What is this crazy thing? I want my coin listed. I love this coin. I love this coin. And so you had all the people that were screaming and yelling for their coins, but the really logical and analytical people had to stop and think, well, maybe there's a reason that Cardano got listed after a 2-month freeze on Bittrex, that it had to, basically prove itself to be a very, very viable, incredible project. And so those people went back and came up with a slowly approach. I worked on that. Jane Wild was heading that with IOHK, and John O'Connor with the foundation, and myself, between the kind of the 3 organizations, and also helping out with Emurgo. And it worked out really well. Going back, can scream louder than than the next person, but you'll never get anywhere. So we left the breadcrumbs, the scientific papers, the profiles, logged all the information and got it out into the community, which was very small. There was really no community, but it was built from that. So all these people that came up and picked up the breadcrumbs, they had to go back to see, okay, the Cardano or it was Cardano Hub, site then, which was compiling all the information outside on Cardano.org. That was the first kind of central repository, which was worked on by the 3 organizations, and you could go somewhere and you could go after the different organizations. Well, what are these federated entities? Who's behind them? like there was at least a dozen PhDs working on it, and I can't remember how many published papers at that time. And so they were going back and saying, okay, there's real science, there's amazing people behind this, and so we need to pay attention to it. And that was the birth of the Cardano community. And again, I'm amazed at how it's grown so far. And Vasil, we met for the first time in person at the IOHK conference in Miami, right? And that for me was
that was in April, beginning of this year, right? 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So this is it's a 1.5 years later, almost 2 years later, and get to see kind of this is the community. Really cool. I mean, and it's just a small portion. And it was a really cool event. Why? I got to see a lot of people that are quite amazing. You have the ambassadors. You got Niels Katsumoto. You have Vasil, OCG, Josh. I don't want to mention more names because I'll always leave some out. But these are the champions. These are the ones that picked up the breadcrumbs. They went. You can only force something beautiful down someone's throat, so much. This is why marketing is has limited effects, right?
Yeah.
But people trust their friends. They trust this. They trust what their friend says more than what the. So instead of us trying to figure out what's a great way to push marketing, you say something like Tron comes to mind, where you have a central figure. Is pushing something, and an announcement of an announcement. This is maybe not the case anymore, but definitely was in the past. Versus trying to get a community to spread it themselves, and that's the real. That's one of the things about blockchain. It's node based, right? You have a anti-fragile system that it's only as strong as its network. So without this network, you don't really have anything. So it's really cool to watch, even the Shelley testnet staking map grow. You have different people in the community that are building a map like that. It's really cool. So I'm really happy to see that see it grow like that.
Yeah,
I guess it's okay. So
no, that's true. Vasil, do you have anything to add here, or a question perhaps?
I remember that initially Darren mentioned for the initial contact, besides Ken, he mentioned another guy also who now is CEO of Emurgo HK, or what? This Hayashi?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. I've seen. I can't remember the last time I saw him, but yeah. So at that time, it was Alex. It was Kin Kodama and Alex, and let's see, there was also Kyle and a couple of guys in a room in Osaka, and then from Osaka it grew to Tokyo. Had some experiments into other places, and now they have the main Tokyo base, and they also have the main Singapore base.
Yes.
But what I like actually about this story is that, you're actually, you've been in the blockchain way longer than Charles Hoskinson is, right? So, and also the birth of Cardano, you've actually experienced this from its very infancy, period. And to see from, let's say, where we came from to where we are today, I think the community, I'm not sure if we have official figures, but I think it's over 1 million or something like that people, or between 500,000 and 1 million people actually, within the community. And it's actually it's growing, and it's continuously growing. I can imagine someone in your position who actually have seen it, let's say, from nothing, started from just, the idea to what it is today.
It's pretty crazy. So, we were talking about, I think the last time when I first heard about Cardano was kind of the first time also hearing about Bitcoin. At that time you could track, the first time I heard about Bitcoin, you could track it all on Bitcoin Talk. You could track the entire ecosystem on, the one forum. And it was pretty cool. You know, it's small enough, and now it's grown into a massive global movement, which is, you know, it's amazing. And the Cardano community as well. You know, these are, you know, 2.0 and 3.0 technologies. So, I mean, I don't know what I say about that. You know, we have a mathematician, you know, who also is a ginkgo fanatic, who is, you know, one of the ambassadors that gets the you know, the community around in Plovdiv to plant trees that's
in there
to show what was Vaso, can you share with us the quote that you know about the trees?
Actually, Darren, the story started during one day after the first birthday of Cardano, when I was inspired and planted the first ginkgo, and explained that ginkgo has 7 symbolic meanings, which are invincibility, hope, long life, fertility, sympathy, friendship, and adaptability. And I wish Cardano will embody these symbolic meanings of ginkgo. So this started the movement, you know. And yesterday, Darren, I planted three more trees, 2 sequoia sempervirens and 1 meta sequoia. And the sempervirensis I dedicated to Don Valentin, the founder of Sequoia Capital, who passed away 2 days ago, with the idea that Sequoia Capital and Sequoias will follow and live after Don was, let's say, passing away. And the third one, the Meta Sequoia, I planted alone, because the first one I planted with a member of our community, Boriana, who is with title Meta Sequoia Queen. And we planted the 2 sequoias. Then she left to Sofia, and I planted the Meta Sequoia. And I still wonder, it is dedicated in overall to Cardano project, but because different trees, they have different growth patterns. So generally, ginkgo is for Haskell, and Meta Sequoia is for Rust.
Okay.
And
which is going to end up
for Scala,
which will be the champion.
3 languages, three endangered species.
Okay. This makes a lot of sense, and I like the way you said, you know, that Sequoia will live on, you know, and even that's quite symbolic of blockchain and crypto and decentralized systems. You know, for example, a lot of people always ask, you know, who's Satoshi? And it's interesting, but the amazing thing is actually it doesn't matter, and that's something really cool, that the I guess the creation lives on, you know, past the creator. Exactly. And you know, the anti-fragile decentralized system is you know, it moves on. And the thing is really cool, you know, of course, you know, Charles is pretty impressive guy, genius, philosopher. Philosophers, it's some of the most fun conversations, right? But the thing is, you know, the whole idea of sustainability is you know, if and when, you know, Charles leaves or moves on to another project or something, you know, the project goes on, which is you know, planning for the future. You know, exactly. how can the you know, how can the software update itself? Can you do it by way of decentralized governance?
Yes,
can you do it by way of soft forks?
Yeah.
Can you do it by way of, you know, the treasury system? You know, taking the simple rewards mechanism and feeding it back into itself. You know, these are not necessarily new concepts. You know, these are all concepts that are borrowed from all these. You know, all these, you know, different iterations. You know, the Dash has a treasury system. You know, you have different forms of governance. But it's about perfecting them and getting them in balance and harmony in Cardano. And so that's really the key thing.
Harmony.
You know, even
harmony.
Yes, yeah.
Harmony. I was meditating in the morning, about how harmonious development includes in self-sustainable development.
Yeah.
Bravo.
So that to mention that, Bitcoin it's a mix of different technologies that came before it, right? It's not birthed out of thin air. You have Merkle trees, you have Hashcash, you have all these different inventions that were pieced together and to form Bitcoin. So then, in terms of Cardano, it's taking these, it's re-architecting them, it's using a functional programming language to make it more robust.
Yeah.
But it's also combining the best things and trying to put them into harmony. So I did a lot of travel with Charles, work, helping build Emurgo. One of the ones we did one in Korea, and he was talking about well, it's harmony, it's balance. You can at that time, this was maybe late 2017, everyone was talking about TPS, transactions per second, or throughput. If you can do 100 transactions per second, I can do 101, or 1,000 or 10,000. And if we look at that, we'll actually see that, something like graph, which I can't remember, was like 250,000 transactions per second. It was saying it was getting in the lab, and then it turned out to be like, like a tenth of that, like 2,500. Okay. So, you had these things like transactions per second, or in different like single to work on, and you can focus on any one of those things, right? If you're doing a pure transactional payment system, then TPS is maybe the most important thing for you. But if you're doing a balanced machine, that that's supposed to be the financial stack, you need everything to be in balance. So, for example, I told you I went, in Indonesia with Shunsuke Murasaki, and we were talking with some guys there, and they were looking between Hashgraph, and they said Hashgraph, has all these TPS, and I said, well, frankly, I'm not a computer scientist, I don't know. So I went and I talked with the network team. I talked with Neil Davies and some of the other guys, and they were, I got a great lesson. They were saying, you have network topology, you have network topography. Anything can work in theory, but and anything works. You can work great in a lab because you have controlled environments. But like, okay, you guys are in Indonesia right now. I'm like, yes. Like, okay, Indonesia has how many thousands of islands? Imagine you're in the center of Jakarta and you have fiber, or you're in one of the islands and you have 2G. The networks behave differently. And so data propagation behaves differently. All of these things behave differently. So if you look at Bitcoin and you see that sometimes, the blocks are supposedly every 10 minutes, sometimes they can come faster, sometimes they can come slower. And a lot of that has to do with data propagation in the network. And even like, going across the firewall in China, that's one thing that, you can only put so much information in packets before you have some, information asymmetry, which causes a big problem for consensus. So if you focus on just pure transactions per second or any one particular metric without finding balance, then you're really going for the wrong thing, unless you're just building for one purpose.
Yeah.
Right. If you're building for one purpose, it's great. Like, again, TPS, great if you're doing payments, but then on the other side, you have cost, you have electricity costs, you have computation costs, and if you're doing payments, that it's actually passed on to the end customer. Right.
So basically, what you're saying, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but in terms of Cardano, I mean, the system is not being built, let's say, solely for the purpose of increasing throughput, but it's actually serving a much bigger cause than just that.
It's trying to balance all the fine things. Throughput is one of them, but it's not just looking for throughput, right? Because if you just focus on throughput, then you miss, you actually miss the economic side, right? Which is how much electricity does it consume? What's the packet size? For the information, even the network architecture. I can't remember what it was called, delta Q or something. It's basically an algebraic expression of a computer network that helps the IOHK engineers, map out how Cardano will perform in the wild. And you're looking at when you get this out of a lab, when you get it into the real world, how it will perform. One, planning for it; two, testing it; three, releasing it. And so even you see the staged rollout of Shelley and staking, and it's in a controlled manner, which is that's how computer systems, especially very, very secure ones, should be done. Yeah.
So I mean, when we speak of balance, I mean, you mentioned earlier, if you're creating, let's say, a system, that should also cater to like people in the developer world, right? Then the developing world, then it has to be, let's say, in a certain balance, right?
Yeah.
So we're not only speaking of, let's say, throughput, but we're also speaking of, let's say, security, costs, and what other, let's say, elements should we be actually looking for that we see Cardano has considered, or the team at Cardano considered in its development?
Okay, well, so away from the tech, which is basically trying to fine tune every particular part, you also have, I guess, the balance of the ecosystem, right? You had it was started as a federated system, Cardano Foundation, IOHK, and Emurgo. So I always thought of blockchain as a city, right? So imagine you have this big piece of land that you need to develop. Well, what do you need first, right? And so if you have a big piece of land and you want to turn it into a city, you have to go through different parts, right? So the first is about putting in the infrastructure. So I consider IOHK, it's the infrastructure. It's the roads, it's the electrical lines, it's the the base of the buildings, it's the railway tracks, it's the
infrastructure,
even the sewage systems, the connections to other cities, right? So it's all that base, and if you don't have that base, you have nothing to build on, right? And then you have a Emurgo that comes in and it brings in people to transact on it, and it builds buildings, and it brings in storefronts, and it starts with the education, how to live in the city. You build buildings which can be seen as like applications or digital banking, and you have this commerce. So now all of a sudden you have this activity that's happening on the infrastructure of the city. And then when you have that, then you need another third party which keeps the rules and the standards, and that's the focus of the Cardano Foundation has. So it's like the legislature, not necessarily the police, but it makes sure that things are done right. The CF is they have the code audit for IOHK to make sure that the code quality is being done right. So this is the idea of a federated system.
It sounds like you're building a society. Yeah, it's like it's mind blowing. It sounds like you're yes, you're actually let's say creating the foundations, solid foundations for that society, basically. A society cannot run without potentially exactly. A society cannot run without good infrastructure, without good, let's say, rules and regulations. All of these things has to be put into place. But before they actually have been put into place, it has to be well thought out, well researched, to make sure that it caters to everyone's need, basically.
I will share with you very deep secrets now.
Okay. I have 3 minutes.
Yeah. What is this?
That's one
thing.
Yes. This looks like one finger, but the joke is saying that if when those two fingers become four, then you could think I'm drunk. When those two fingers become four.
Yeah.
But what I could say Darren is talking about, he's talking about this. When those three fingers become 9, that I'm really drunk. Meditate on this, guys. This is talking because he used the word harmony one time or two times. Then he shifted for more easily explainable term of balance. But I know very well that Darren knows very well that harmony includes balance.
And it's hard to achieve, you know. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to achieve.
Yes, because as he said, when you have two parties, this is like balance. But when you have third party, this triad already goes to harmony.
In order to achieve.
Very deep, and I like very much this very systematic and very deep approach, which is unique for Cardano.
Yeah, and you need a way so that's basically as it grows. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you continue, please.
Yeah, you continue.
As it grows, you need a way that the society can govern itself, and actually, that's an interesting thing, you know, about the goals of sustainability, which is IOHK, Emurgo, or Cardano Foundation are not the owners of the system; they're the builders, right? And at some point, the protocol holders can decide to go with new people to build, and this bank will fund itself. And the treasury will fund itself, and the people can decide to go with another. This is a kind of a cool thing. So it's a system that's trying to build itself to scale, to actually to keep that harmony, and actually to give the tools back to the community to be able to go on forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Darren, on that last note, I want to let's say because we have a last episode coming up. Hopefully it won't be the final one, let's say, but in the future we'll be having you on. Just to give a little bit of a teaser, in the following episode, we'll be talking about the past and let's say past, present, and future of blockchain and protocols, and we'll touch perhaps a little bit on the blockchain governance.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, and obviously, it's all with the tie to Cardano because, we wouldn't be the Cardano Community podcast.
That's right. That's right.
But, Vasil, do you have any last words?
I have a question for Darren, because I saw him blowing a candle for 1 year anniversary. Could he tell us something about this?
Yeah,
or this is secret,
1 year older. 1 year older.
That one candle was just symbolic.
Hopefully
1 year older.
This is,
so, I see.
Yeah, it was my birthday. It was a day that the president of China came out in favor of blockchain, and it was quite a good day.
Yeah, I had a lot to celebrate.
Yeah, it was very good.
And what was last week? What day was 24th or what?
26.
26. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right.
It was very touching, I was very much touched by the photos, because this Dionisio Darren is very, very dear to my heart, somehow. We are brothers in blockchain spirit, like with you. This very deep connection.
And you both, I have to go, but you both are actually blockchain advisors, so you guys have also a very unique connection in that, definitely.
That's right.
Nice. Hey guys, I gotta sign off, unfortunately.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, we won't. Again, this is not going to be the last. We have one more episode, and it's going to be a smashing one. So continue. Be sure to tune into that one.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for joining us there, Darren. Take care.